Collaborations to me need to have something special that allow them to stand out. I personally feel like last year and this year has been pretty weak when it comes to New Balance collaborations, in the sense that the collaborations, in my personal opinion, just lack creativity and the collabs just don't stand out up against their strong GR counterparts. Concept's latest collaboration, the Hours and Days collab on the 1906U, sparked my inspiration for making this video. I personally think that this collaboration is one of the very few collabs this year that actually looks like a collaboration and really stands out up against the GR 1906 models. Obviously, I have my own opinions and biases. When it comes to shoes, you guys know I really love and favor the louder colorways when it comes to both GRs and collabs. I just really like colors over neutral tones, and I like when my shoes stand out. And when it comes to collaborations, I personally hold them to a higher standard, and the reason being is that because a collab consists of the minds of both the shoe brand as well as at least one other person and or brand. With more people and more creative minds behind a single colorway, I'm expecting more and something that stands out against GRs. Especially when the collaboration is limited or straight up has X amount of pairs made. With how good GRs have already gotten in the past few years, I feel like collaborators need to really step up their creativity to make shoes that stand out up against the really strong GR competition. I mean, just look at this raw Amethyst 990 V3. The colorway itself is already striking and loud and stands out against most GRs and really some collaboration 990 V3s, but in addition, it also utilizes hairy suede instead of regular suede for the raw Amethyst. And then we have the Boro Pack 580 and 550. I mean, I could easily spend 5 to 10 minutes just talking about how much I love this general release shoe and how it utilizes different materials and how there's so many details and how it's crazy that this is only a GR and that there are collaborations that barely have half the amount of details or special materials in contrast to the GR that is the Boro Pack. I actually don't think it really takes much to make an interesting collaboration. All you really need to do is present an interesting or unique colorway and maybe utilize some special materials that aren't typically found on the model, or just add in a special detail to the shoe that you're collaborating on. The collaboration may have an interesting story or inspiration behind it, but I personally think that a good story or inspiration can only make a great looking collab feel greater, and it can't really make a mediocre or bad looking collab feel any better or look any better, even if it has a really cool story behind it. I feel like a good example of a collab that has a very interesting and drawn out inspiration and story behind it is the latest Joe Freshgoods collaboration on the 990 V6. You can read into Joe Freshgoods' inspiration behind this collaboration. I think it is kind of interesting. However, as I just said, the inspiration and story doesn't really mean much when the end product is lackluster. No offense to you if you really like this collaboration, and of course no offense to Joe Freshgoods, this is just my own opinion, but I feel like this collaboration is just very lackluster. I mean, both shoes are louder. I mean, you get an all red 990 V6 and an all blue 990 V6. They're very loud and bright, but it's really just that. It's just the 990 V6, either in all red or all blue. Yes, there are some small Joe Freshgoods accents around the shoe, and there's that nice dubray, but I mean, I just feel a lack of creativity behind it. It's just a shoe that's all one color. I feel like really anybody could do that. In fact, I personally think the clothing from his pop-up in Paris were more interesting and inspired than the actual shoes. Obviously, the shoes are the main things for this collaboration project. While the colors are bright and loud, I feel like the end product is a little lackluster and lacks creativity despite the interesting backstory to the collab. And of course, I can't talk about collabs that I think lack creativity or are lackluster without talking about collaborations that just straight up look like GRs. Last year, the best examples of this were the Jown collaborations, as well as Up There Store's last 1906R collaboration. This is probably one of the few misses from Up There Store when it comes to their their New Balance collaborations. Their 2002R collabs that came before this were very fire and had unique colorways, but this silver 1906R really just blends in with all these GRs, as I pointed out in my video from last year. And then of course Jown collabs, I mean, if you can even call them that. I mean, I guess they have Jown branding on the shoe and they cost a bit more and are limited. I mean, these look like just neutral tone GRs. They either already have competition with GRs or are probably going to have similar GR colorways coming out soon. Another thing about these collaborations specifically is that they lack in special materials. Sure, the colorways may be neutral and not too special, but they could have made the shoes out of different materials. Let's say they used an all leather upper. I personally thought this GR991 was a great competitor to the Jown collaboration. If you didn't know, this shoe is made out of mostly premium leathers, and instead of the shoe just being a neutral tone brown and white shoe, it's a shoe that utilizes different, more premium materials that stands out from the rest of the neutral tone pairs and is infinitely more interesting and more premium than the Jown collaboration. On the flip side, collaborations that have louder or more interesting colorways usually stand out easier, and I'll most likely be interested in them. But of course, that's probably the most obvious and easy way to stand out. I feel like most of DTLR's collaborations fall into this category and are able to stand out with their striking color combinations, like their 990V3 Miami Vice colorway, or some of their latest 9060 collaborations like the Fire inspired colorway as well as the Cyan Burst colorway. And we can't forget their kids exclusive colorways that are just really loud, and I'm honestly really sad that they don't come in adult sizes because those colorways are very fire and striking, and I definitely like an adult equivalent pair. DTLR's collabs usually lack the material changes, but they don't really need the material changes when they have striking colorways that flow well and look good on the silhouettes they're collaborating on. I feel like Salehi Bembury and Action Bronson's collaborations are louder collaboration colorways that take it a step further by also introducing unique materials and or special details. The Lapis Lazuli 990V6 collaboration is very striking. They also introduced loud colors to the midsole, and a really nice detail to the collab that really brings it together are the rope laces. And honestly, this is probably one of the more tamer Action Bronson collaborations. This year's 1906R Rosewater collaboration is already a very loud and striking colorway that's great for the summer, but in addition, it uses unique materials that haven't really been seen on the 1906R model that makes it stand out even more and pushes the creativity even further. And I really like Salehi Bembury's upcoming 991V2 collaboration. It utilizes a bright purple suede that has different colored accents around the shoe. It's of course going to have Salehi Bembury's signature touches and branding on the shoe as well. And of course, the nice thing is that in addition to being a loud shade of purple, it's not just regular purple suede, it's hairy purple suede, and it makes the shoes stand out even more. While I do favor louder colorways, there are still plenty of neutral tone collaboration colorways that stand out on their own without having to resort to loud colors. One of the best examples of a neutral tone collaboration that stands out while still being a neutral tone shoe is the Essence 2002R collaboration. On the surface, it looks like just a neutral tone 2002R. You get browns, light browns, tans, as well as cream whites. But of course, once you look closer, you can see that it utilizes corduroy in addition to the regular suede and mesh. Corduroy is an awesome material. It has a unique texture to it. It adds a layer of complexity to a relatively neutral shoe. And while it's not the most striking color out there, the lavender laces adds a little bit of flair to an otherwise neutral shoe. This is probably one of my favorite neutral tone collaborations of all time, and that's thanks in part mostly to the addition of corduroy. They could have easily just utilized suede or nubuck and just regular mesh with neutral tones, but they take it a step further with the unique material in corduroy. One of the most popular and successful New Balance collaborations of all time is the Concepts 998 C-Note. This is last year's reissue of the iconic collaboration. The shoe just flows well. It's a nice colorway. It's neutral, but not too neutral. And what's cool about it is that it's a collab that already looks great on its own, and it can be made better once you look at the backstory behind it. It's called C-Note because that is the nickname for a $100 bill. This 998 colorway was inspired by the new design of the US $100 bill, and once you know that story, you can appreciate the colorway even more and understand the color choices. One of my favorite collabs from last year was the Palace 991, and while definitely not the most neutral tone colorway out there, I still have to bring it up because of all the unique materials utilized. Let's say instead of purple and teal, it just utilized like off-white or black. Even if it was completely neutral tone, it still stands out with the interesting nubuck / leather material utilized in the back panel and mudguard of the shoe. It has an interesting texture to it that hasn't been really utilized in any New Balance shoe before, and instead of the typical mesh, you get ripstop nylon, which adds another layer of complexity to the shoe. And again, that's if you imagine the shoe completely neutral tone. In reality, of course, it has teal and purple accents around the shoe that flows well with the contrasting neutral tones as well as the unique materials. And I'll round off the video with two collaborations that, in my opinion, are just plain good and are the epitome of what a collaboration should be and are what all collaborators should strive towards achieving. The first shoe is the Bodega 610 collaboration from last year. I mean, I feel like this model was perfect for Bodega. Bodega has a strong track record with New Balance collaborations. They utilize different materials and special colors, and that's no different with this 610 colorway. On the lateral side of the shoe, it's relatively neutral. You get black as well as some shades of blue, but of course, once you look closer at the shoe, you get accents of orange and purple. It's very detailed. It utilizes more premium materials despite it being a 610. And then on the medial side of the shoe, you get very unique colors with the purple and golden yellow. The shoe has unique colors, elevated materials, and is very detailed. It's a collaboration that is just executed very well and has pretty much all three aspects of what I'm looking in a collab. And lastly is the shoe that helped inspire this video, and that is the Concepts 1906U Hours and Days collaboration. This collab is based off an older collaboration between Concepts and the 999 Navy collaboration colorway. But of course, I'm not particularly looking into the story or inspiration behind the collaboration. I'm just focused on how it looks in the end and if it stands out up against the GR counterparts. And it definitely did. I think Concepts knocked it out of the park with this collaboration. The colors all work well together. None of the colors are particularly loud. Like the blue, while definitely not dark, is definitely toned down. Especially in the plastic cage, it's actually matte, which tones it down a bit. The green is definitely on the more neutral side. And then of course, a majority of the shoe is white, tan, and brown. So you actually get a lot of neutral tones. But despite that, a majority of the panels of the shoe are utilizing elevated materials. You get soft suedes. The 1906 family of shoes typically just utilizes synthetic materials like plastics and like obviously fake leathers and of course the mesh. But this collaboration utilized premium suedes, and I feel like that adds a nice layer of complexity in addition to the interesting color scheme. While the color scheme is relatively neutral, I feel like it is interesting. It's not every day you see seafoam green, blue, brown, and white put together. I feel like the color scheme flows really well together, and the subtle changes in colors on the lateral and medial side of the shoe is definitely nice. I feel like the colors contrast really well together, and the shoe also features a unique insole with a cool topographical pattern in the same colors utilized on the outer of the shoe. And what's really interesting about this collaboration is that there is not a single hint of Concepts branding anywhere on the shoe. It utilizes the standard gray New Balance box that's found on New Balance GRs. And I'll say it again, there's not a single hint of Concepts branding anywhere on the shoe, despite it being a collaboration. I think that is really awesome. The colorway just speaks for itself. I feel like this is exactly what I'm looking for in a collaboration. The colorway that just speaks for itself. It has special materials, the colorway flows well, and has small little details that you can appreciate after you look at the shoe even more. I think Concepts and New Balance absolutely knocked it out of the park with this collaboration, and I'm really hoping New Balance has more collaborations like this and less collaborations that just lack creativity and look like GRs. I know this video was kind of like a rant and it was probably more drawn out than it should have been, but I appreciate you guys for watching if you made it this far. Do you guys agree with my opinion on collaborations, and do you guys have certain standards when it comes to collaborations over GRs? I'd definitely like to know down in the comments.